Hi. Okay. I was invited here to talk about the somewhat coincidental discovery that me and my colleagues recently made in our lab. We discovered a new type of non-porous magnesium carbonate that we named Obsolete after our city that has a tremendous ability to absorb moisture from the atmosphere. In my talk, I will touch upon things like chaos, creativity, and of course some porous materials. My starting point will be in the world of natural sciences, but I believe that science is our way to relate to and explore the world, and in that way we are all scientists in our own personal universes, so I think this relates to all of us. In science, we often have a clear goal with what we are looking for. We try to predict the outcome of our experiments based on previous results and theories. And when you read a scientific article, you often get the impression that the authors, they had already envisioned all the details in their outcome even before the study. The study is only a confirmation about the theories, but this is seldom the truth. Often the results are at least somewhat different from what you expected from the beginning, and often you stumble over totally new findings because we are constantly exploring undiscovered territories in our investigation of the universe. So of course we will stumble over some different things that we were not expecting to do while we're working with this. I'm now going to give you a number of examples of discoveries that made by accident within the natural sciences, but unexpected events occur in all parts of our lives. Just think about yourselves. Choice of life partner, choice of career. How much of this had you actually planned for? The fact is, it's the unexpected events that often has the most profound impact on our lives. This is Alexander Fleming. You all know that he discovered penicillin by accident back in 1928. He was a brilliant researcher working with bacteria, and when he came back from summer holiday at one occasion, he discovered some fungus in his bacteria cultures. Luckily for us, Alexander was no good at keeping tidy, which was the reason for contamination in his bacterial cultures. And he saw that this fungus has a bactericidal effect. The bacteria close to the fungus, they were destroyed by this fungus, and he later on proved that this effect was due to a substance secreted by this fungus. In 1895, Wilhelm Reunken was working with electron beams in his lab, and he one day realized, while working with his experimental setup, he saw a very strange type of radiation from his setup. He thought it was very strange, and he saw that this radiation could penetrate different types of materials. And since this radiation was unknown at this time, he simply referred to them as X-rays. He studied these more in detail, and he was later rewarded with the Nobel Prize in Physics for this. Another discovery made by accident is the discovery of Teflon. In 1938, Plankett was working with a type of refrigerant gas. And he stored this gas in a gas tube. And when he tried to empty his gas tube, he saw that part of this gas didn't come out of this gas tube. It seemed to be trapped inside. So he cut it in half and realized that a waxy coating had formed on the interior of the gas tube. And this waxy coating was a fluorinated plastic material that was formed when the gas reacted with the iron on the inside of his gas tube under pressure. Viagra. It was initially developed in order to treat patients with high blood pressure, but it's better known for one of its side effects. So back to Obsolete, the material that me and my colleagues discovered. We were working with calcium carbonates to begin with. We were making a porous type of calcium carbonate to act as a carrier for drugs. We had a problem with this material. It collapsed after a couple of weeks. The pores disappeared, which made it useless for our applications. So we started thinking, how can we change this material in any way to make it more stable? You might remember this from chemistry in school, the periodic table. all our elements in the world are arranged in a way, and in this part we find calcium. The neighboring elements, they often share some common features, and we thought that maybe we can replace calcium with some other element. We thought magnesium and strontium would be great candidates, and of course magnesium and strontium carbonate exist in nature, so it should be possible, we thought. So we tried with this. Began with strontium. Indeed, we formed strontium carbonate, however it wasn't porous as we wanted it to be. So we decided to try with magnesium instead. Thought it would be as easy as it has been with calcium and strontium carbonate. It failed. Nothing happened in our reactor, and we were, of course, disappointed about this. We thought that, hey, what could be the reason? We started to play around with the synthesis parameters, changing all the conditions that we could come up with. Nothing happened. At one occasion, we decided, hey, we just leave the reactor standing. We leave it over the weekend. No one else will use it. We don't know if anything will happen. We can just as well leave it here to see. If it doesn't work, okay, it's fine. So we left it there. Came back on Monday morning, and indeed, something has happened in the reactor. A thick gel had formed, and when we dried this gel, indeed, we had formed magnesium carbonate. But not only that, the magnesium carbonate that we had formed was extremely porous. We were looking for a porous type of magnesium carbonate, but not to this extent. It maybe doesn't look much to the world, these grains that you see here, but it's actually, the volume of this material is actually more than 70% empty voids. And the pores in the material, they are smaller than 10 nanometers in diameter. 10 nanometers, that is the distance about 50 to 100 atoms in a row. So you realize this is extremely small. And we thought this was interesting. Continue looking at it. We saw that it has a tremendous ability to absorb moisture from the atmosphere. As you see in this movie here, this is just some material standing on a balance, and you see the weight increases just because it sucks moisture from the air into its pores. So this can be described as these small bags that you find in your shoe boxes on speed. So this material has the world record in absorbing moisture from the surrounding. And this is, of course, very interesting in different applications where moisture can induce problems, electronics, pharmaceutics, and so on. And we were thrilled about this and thought, hey, this is amazing. But we haven't really looked into the literature yet to see if someone else had done something similar to this before. So we started looking into the literature, and we didn't find any evidence on something similar to this before. Indeed, we find literature or some articles from the early 20th century where the author has tried a similar approach to produce magnesium carbonate. And they have failed, as we did in the beginning. And they actually said that this is impossible. You cannot produce magnesium carbonate in this way. So we had created this impossible material. And had we not left this reactor standing over the weekend, I don't think that we would have seen the birth of Obsolete as we did this time. So now I will talk a bit about creativity. When I was invited here, I started to browse the TED website for some inspiration, and I found Ken Robinson's talk about creativity and how the education system effectively quenches our creativity by making us fear failure. And of course, this is extremely dangerous, especially in the world of science, because how are we going to explore new things and discover new things if we are afraid of testing our ideas? Maybe all ideas are very good to test, but it's hard to know from the beginning what will work and what won't. And what does these examples I've given you have to do with creativity? I mean, they are all examples of accidental discoveries, but they are also a result of a creative process where the researchers did not regard their initial findings as failures. They were rather intrigued by what they saw and started to look into this more in detail. An artist like Banksy, he also gets his inspiration by observing the world around us. And had not Fleming observed that his fungus had this bactericidal effect. Maybe we haven't discovered penicillin, and had not Plankett carefully measured the amount of gas that he was able to get out of his tube, maybe we wouldn't have seen the birth of Teflon either. When you start testing your idea, you create some kind of chaos in that moment because you can't be sure what will happen. You can have some ideas what will happen, but it's hard to control the situation. And since this chaos that you produce is the mother of many unexpected discoveries, it is important to sometimes lose control of what you're doing and embrace this chaos and pay careful attention to what is going on. So test your ideas, embrace this chaos, and expect the unexpected. Your first idea probably has its origin in some observations that you have already done. And when you test this idea, you will make new observations and make new ideas. So being creative is an iterative process that continues to develop throughout your work. I don't think that anyone had envisioned a piece of bread before it was invented. Surely someone at some time point realized that certain grains can be treated in some ways to become eatable, and then during the years of observation, handling of crops and grains, finally bread was born. And I guess that no one who was working with the ARPANET back in the 60s realized that this would become internet. The internet was formed when from this idea to connect a number of supercomputers back in the US, and then others observed this, got ideas from this, and then saw the potential in this kind of network. So this tells us to be truly creative, you need to be able to observe, and don't be afraid to let chance play a small part in what you're doing. Don't be afraid to test things just for the fun of it, because who knows what will come out of it. To lose control of some aspects of your life and what you're doing might lead you on to a very adventurous journey through life. So don't be afraid to fail, be observant, and allow yourself to boldly go where no one has gone before. Thank you.
Johan?